What's up? Today I want to speak about when the right time to bring up royalty splits is. If you've been in a studio session, you know that there's vibes. You know when you're in the space, there's vibes. It's not always going to be the right time to bring up the conversation of money, bring up the conversation of royalties and royalty splits. So, this is just my guide based on my experiences when the best time to bring that thing up is. So, if you are a bit more of a, I want to find out that information up front, it's probably best that you get that information before you even get into studio, if you can. So via text, or you can say, you can send a message if you don't want to speak to the artist directly and you probably want to speak to their management. Then it's probably a good thing to ask them, who would I speak to with regards to royalty splits on the song that we are going to be recording soon? It's just, it's a non-invasive way. You basically, it's a very direct question, but you're giving them an out and saying that, look, I have a manager, here's their number, you can talk to them about it. Or I have a label, they will handle all of that stuff. If they say that I'm the person who's going to handle it, at that point, it's probably a good idea to then start talking about it. What were you thinking? Oh, what's the plan in terms of marketing? What's the plan in terms of splits? How do you see this playing out, right? Get an idea of their perspective of things, because I've seen people fight, but they fight because they don't know, and then people get defensive because this is my song, my lyrics, my vocals. You can't do it. Understand where the other person is coming from. So, for example, someone might say, I'm going to give you 30% and I'm going to take 70. Instantly, you're thinking, man, this is composition. I was involved in the 50% of the creation of this track. But in their mind, what they might be thinking is, well, I'm going to be the one who's going to be doing the marketing, the promotion. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. And in that way, the reason why they said 70 to them and 30 to you is because they need some kind of way of recouping, right? They need to somehow come up with the money. And you can still say no. You can say, no, I only work on 50-50 basis. Or you can, if you feel you have the leverage, then you can say something along the lines of, I'm going to take 80% and you're going to get 20% because I'm the biggest artist. And that's just how leverage works. So have the conversation. I'm saying it in a very, very, loose and fast way, because none of this matters. The norms of how things should be now have all been thrown out the window, because the whole music industry has been thrown out the window. Everything goes at this point. So it's important to have conversations as to people's expectations, because that's going to avoid tears later down the line. If it's during the session, you need to finesse your way into asking that type of question. Maybe towards the end, if someone starts talking about royalties, maybe you can bring it up. I tend to bring it up because it tends to be, that's my brand, talking about royalties, talking about music business and all that type of thing. So at the end, I ask them questions. I'm like, do you have any music business questions I might be able to answer for you? They'll ask me a few, and then after they've broken the ice, then I can jump back in and say, okay, cool, let's talk about this song that we've just done today. For you, things might be different. You might need to look at the situation and say, wow, the people in here are on a different level. I can't be bringing this thing up now because you got into the room. And unfortunately, if you mess up the vibe, then you might not get invited into the room again. So there are ways. It's not that you have to come in and bulldoze your opinion, but there are ways to finesse it. And in a nice way that I think is probably the easiest and most clean way of getting it done is at the end of the session, you'll just say, who do I contact with regards to royalties on this song? Or do you have a manager or someone that I can speak to about splits and how we'll work the back end of the song or the publishing of the song? Use whatever terminology feels comfortable for you. You can use the word royalties if you want to, but just get them to understand where you want the conversation to go. And if they don't want to talk about it, maybe they'll refer you to someone else who can discuss it. Now, I think the reason why a lot of people get defensive when royalties and splits and ownership and all of that is brought up is because people don't know. If I'm being honest, even artists who are at the top don't really understand how this stuff works. So there's this element of, yeah, but I know, and I'm going to show you. And I'm going to try and negotiate for whatever it is that I can. I've been in between disputes where I'm like, you guys don't have to fight. Honestly, there was a person who once told me that they had royalties that were stolen from them by someone else. And they were like, why did they not pay me a royalty check? And I was like, yo, that person's not going to pay you a royalty check. Through the fact that the song was registered, Samro is going to pay you guys your royalties. You don't have to go to that person. As long as the notification of works have been done properly, you're covered, right? So understanding all the intricacies, it's best that you just educate yourself. It just makes life so much easier. Preserve the vibe because you can. And yeah, you'll find that it just makes navigating these sessions a bit easier.